So I want to do a quick video on what textual integrity is, because I feel like it's a term used very often in the English syllabus and not a lot of people know exactly how to explain it or what it is. So when we're looking at a close study of a text, so this obviously relates to your Module B critical study, you also do it in younger years as well, where you're focusing on a particular text and you're looking at its textual integrity, or what I like to say instead is what gives a text value, right? And that value is what gives it the textual integrity. So if you think about integrity, and this is where I think a lot of people kind of get thrown off or confused about it, is that integrity we normally think of as something sort of moralistic. So an example would be if someone like loses their wallet and then another person finds it, and rather than stealing it, they track down the person, give their wallet back and go, oh wow, that person has so much integrity. So we think of it as like a good person, someone who does the right thing, you know, it's very moralistic, which is not what we're talking about here, because like that's not the idea with textual integrity. So the integrity we're looking at when we're looking at textual integrity is something that gives it like it's whole, it's complete, it's substantial. And so when and the best comparison I can make is when you think about, say, a building structure. So when you think of a structure of a building, it needs to have certain foundational elements in order to stand up as a building. So it's got to have walls, it's got to have a ceiling, it's got to have, you know, load bearing such and such. I don't know anything about building a house, but if it doesn't have these, you know, proper foundations, it just doesn't work. Like, it just falls over. It might work for a little while, it might be effective, you might be able to use it, but then it's gonna have problems. It's not gonna withstand the test of time. It's not gonna last, right? And so it's not that the building's necessarily good or bad. Obviously, if you build a building that's not, you know, solid, like, that can be an issue, but the actual physical house or building itself is not good or bad. It just either has integrity, it's whole and complete, or it's not, you know. I suppose if you think about something like a bike as well, you know, a bike, you know, may like not work if you have a couple of spokes out of the wheel, and it may just fall over. It just doesn't work anymore. So it needs to have all of the parts there in order to work, be effective, and then you know, last throughout time. And so if we think about that in relation to a text, we're then looking at what are those foundational qualities a text needs in order to be appreciated, to be, you know, popular, to be, you know, significant, not only maybe at the time it was written, but especially throughout time. And then when you think about something like Shakespeare, like, great example of texts that have textual integrity, because like hundreds of years on, we're still studying it, we're still reinterpreting it into different other texts, and, you know, all that kind of thing. So it's lasted throughout time. So what are those foundational qualities that gives a text its integrity? So the first thing a text needs in order to have value or integrity is it needs to you know, display or illustrate aspects of the human condition or human experience. Now, I can't stress this enough. Every single text you ever study for English is coming down to the human experience, the human condition. Obviously in Year 12, there is an actual module, Text and Human Experiences, but they just put a name to that. But that's still what they're looking for at every single point in time that you're studying a text. You are looking at the human experience, the human condition. And so this will probably make sense right now. Tell you, oh, when they tell you, oh, what are the key ideas in the text, or what are the themes or the key ideas will always be things like, things to do with the human experience. So love, hate, conflict, power, illusion versus reality, you know, purpose of life. Oh, there's so many, right? There's so many. So they're all the ones that everybody experiences, so in a way universal, and they, again, relate to the human experience. Mortality, everyone's going to experience that. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. So depending on your text, you then need to pick what those key aspects or ideas of the human experience actually are. You know, so, but some really common ones would be conflict, love, hate, jealousy, order, you know, chaos. What else have we got? Oh gosh, there's just so many. like turmoil or like challenges, difficulties, transformation, changes as people, changes as characters, growth kind of comes into that as well. Anyway, there's so many, leadership, power, corruption. Oh gosh, there's so many. Okay, so it really depends on what text you do. Okay, so the second thing that a text needs in order to have this integrity or this significance, and just to be clear, I just popped these in from the rubric, the Module B critical study rubric, because I wanted to use those words. So the second things it gives it that substance and that significance is how are they illustrating these key ideas about the human experience. Okay, and when you get how, you're always then looking at techniques. Okay, so techniques, or something I love from the new syllabus, stylistic features. Okay, so again, like what you want to focus on really depends on the text you're doing. So if you're doing a film, you're going to be looking at, things like camera angles, lighting, blocking. If you're doing poems, you're looking at meter, rhyme, metaphor, simile, motif. If you're doing, Shakespeare play, and I'm going to jot down some examples from Shakespeare because that's one of the most common texts that are used in these modules about textual integrity or the critical study. So with that, we're looking at things like, dramatic irony, characterization, certainly motifs, soliloquies, so all these things that basically to do with the technique. And then obviously you have things like, iambic pentameter, you do still have things like metaphors and so forth. But, if you're looking a bit more kind of like holistically at it, there are things that, go into the style and the structure and the format of the story that then convey these aspects of the human condition. So then what we're looking at when we have these foundational qualities, the human experience and then the techniques, is that when a text has integrity or value or significance or whatever you want to say, it is able to be valued throughout time and context. Okay, so again, 400 years later, still looking at Shakespeare, still reinterpreting it, multiple ways of seeing it, multiple ways of presenting it or acting it out and what have you. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what we're looking at with textual integrity. And yeah, hopefully you can apply that.